Joe, good afternoon.
Hey Joe, good afternoon.
How are you? How's the work day been?
It's been all right. Yeah. For a Tuesday, it hasn't been insane, so I like that.
Well, sorry to break the news to you, but there's still 3 more days left of the work week. So
Oh,
there's
true.
room for it to get exciting. There's still time.
That's true. There's still time for things to amp up. You are so right. How have you been doing?
I've been doing good. I've been surviving, but it's officially 5 o'clock, which means it is
Okay.
officially after hours, which means it's officially time to discuss divorce, I guess. Even though we talk about divorce every single second of the day, we are now providing an experience for the viewers, both on Zoom as well as on YouTube, an opportunity to speak with us about divorce. And as always, we always appreciate viewers' interaction through the Q&A function as well. That's only on Zoom availability, unfortunately, not over YouTube, but we always welcome questions. We love questions. We love answering your questions, and we love the interaction. And with that, welcome to Family Law Now After Hours. So today's topic is how to cope with your divorce at work. And just a disclaimer to all of those watching today, just please note that the purpose of this series is to just discuss general information as it relates to separation, divorce, and other family law matters. And any information that is provided here today, in the past or in the future, should not be construed as legal advice. As I've mentioned, those who are with us on Zoom today, please use the Q&A feature to submit your questions, comments, concerns. We greatly value your feedback, and like I said, we greatly value your interaction with us. It makes our job a lot more fun and a lot more personal. And as always, if you do have a question regarding your specific matter, you can either call our office or a lawyer in your area to book a consultation to receive that specific tailored advice as it relates to your matter. And as always, stay tuned until the end as we will be sharing how you can schedule a free 20-minute initial consultation with one of our lawyers here at the firm. And with that, let's move on to our introductions. So we have the amazing Jodeen Williams on the screen here. Jodeen is an articling student at RIA, and she is actually one of the newest members of our team. Jodeen has already gained valuable experience across both collaborative and litigation files, and her legal journey began at Queen's University. Me too, where she honed her advocacy skills through roles at Neighborhood Legal Services Legal Clinic, as well as the Family and Children's Services of Frontenac, Lennox, and Addington. Lots of words for that county.
Lots
They
of
should,
words.
they should
Yeah.
shorten that. Um,
Truly.
right? And all of these experiences have truly helped her develop a keen ability to navigate complex legal issues with empathy and with insight. For myself, I am a compassionate family lawyer, as my clients do tell me, and as I like to parade myself on, with a deep desire to support families through challenging times. With a background in commerce, I bring strong negotiation, analytical, and critical thinking skills to my practice, and I have confidence in handling a wide array of family law matters. I
Mhm.
emphasize active listening, clear communication, and empathy, which fosters a comfortable environment for my clients. I am certified as a collaborative lawyer with the Ontario Association of Collaborative Professionals, and thus I offer clients an alternative dispute resolution approach to avoid court. Outside of work, I love me my Toronto Maple Leafs, I love me my LA Rams, and I enjoy playing hockey and watching comedy movies. So, with that, let's take a dive right in to our topics for today. So, Jodeen, I've done a lot of talking today. Let's start with you. Let's maybe you can share with our viewers about what it means to set boundaries.
Ah, okay. Sure. Let's start with setting boundaries. So, um, yeah. So you'll want to avoid discussing personal issues like with your top colleagues during this time as you're going through a divorce or a separation, unless it's like really necessary. As divorce can be deeply personal and an emotional experience, whether it brings relief, joy, grief, or a mix of emotions. Um, it's important to set clear boundaries in the workplace because while you might feel the need to confide in your colleagues, consider keeping those discussions about your divorce limited to trusted into individuals because even like o oversharing can even unintentionally lead to unintended consequences like workplace gossip or shift in personal relationships. Um, that said, if you find yourself sharing more than you intended, just be kind to yourself. I think that's always a good place to start. Divorce is a major life transition. Separating is a major life transition. And there may be moments that your personal life spills over into your work life. This is not as like it's not something you can't come back from because you're only human. It's just a reminder that you're human. You can't compartmentalize everything like you're not a robot, right? So acknowledge your emotions while attempting to maintain your professionalism in the workplace can help you acknowledging your emotions, sorry, while maintaining professionalism in the workplace can really help you navigate during this period of uncertainty. Um, so yeah, that's what I would open up with, Joe. Would you like
Yeah,
to talk a bit more about how you might inform your employer?
for sure, for sure. So I mean, it definitely ties into, setting boundaries, but before you even set those boundaries, as you mentioned, you have to at least find the way to inform your employer of what sort of transpired. So, as you mentioned, there's a difference between and sort of competing and oh, I have a friend here. There's a competing interests between transparency and privacy, right? You mentioned divorce is a very personal matter. But if the divorce ends up affecting your work performance, it's really important to consider sharing relevant information with your supervisor. Sorry, one second. Um, you know, at the end of the day, you don't need to disclose every detail with your employer, but you should be disclosing enough where you're able to explain the potential changes in your availability or your ability to focus at the office because, let's be real, divorce is a very stressful, emotionally taxing event that happens on one's life. And whether or not you're the highest performing, highest functioning, highest performing employee at the workforce, or maybe you're just a mid-pack person who just gets their job done. And either way, there's going to be a change to your performance at the workplace. It's natural, it's normal, right? It's just, with all this additional stress that you're dealing with, maybe if you have children, the impact on them and dealing with that, dealing with finances as it relates to, separate households, maybe you've had to move out. There's a lot of different circumstances, right, that need to be considered. And transparency is really key, but again, you don't have to share every detail with your employer, but you should be providing them with just enough to explain the reason for maybe a lackluster ability or lackluster availability, excuse me, or lackluster focus. Um, Again, framing is key. How you present the information is extremely, extremely important, right? So when you are discussing your situation with your supervisor, with your employer, keep the conversation work focused. That's really, 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 really important. For example, you might say, X, I'm going through a personal situation that might affect my availability for meetings in the next few weeks, right? Something very simple, very clear like that. And that approach actually allows you to maintain professionalism while alerting your employer to potential issues. So you don't even have to necessarily say, I'm going through this divorce, I'm going through this hard time with my wife, I'm going through this hard time with my husband. Rather, I'm going through a personal situation that will affect my availability. Please be mindful. And that's something that's very straight and narrow and gets the point across. Um, Aside from the way in which you frame, that information to your employer, at the end of the day, and whether it deals with an active relationship, maybe a past relationship where you have children involved, is the idea of proactive communication and addressing concerns before they arise, being proactive, right? So let your employer know if deadlines might be impacted, or maybe you'll need flexibility with your schedule, right? This shows not only responsibility, but it also shows your ability for foresight, right? Not leaving your employer high and dry. At the end of the day, you still have employment obligations that you need to attend to, and being able to proactively communicate your situation shows again responsibility and foresight. And as Joe mentioned, it's really important to set boundaries, right? So while it's important to keep your employer informed, make sure that you're making it clear that you're handling the situation and you only need specific support or accommodations, right? That's where it comes down to.
Yeah, for sure, Joe. And um when you're finding it difficult to stay focused at the job, which, you know, is a reality, because as I said earlier, and as you um also alluded to, it's we're only human, and so sometimes the personal will bleed into the professional, even with your best intentions. You want to try and stay focused because divorce will entail a lot of different proceedings, documents, paperwork. There's uh planning parenting arrangements, financial disclosure. Maybe at some point you have to do some kind of pension evaluation, who knows, support orders. All of this can be time consuming and quite emotionally draining. So it's helpful to establish a structured schedule that will help you carve out time for concentrating on work-related tasks during work hours and completing any tasks assigned to you, maybe by your lawyer, some homework that you might have to do, whether it's collecting documents or um, setting aside time to sign some paperwork. I know like that could happen at all hours. It's just like about availability, right? But these things will pop up. And so, um, uh, or I mean, I've been doing information gathering calls as an articling student. So I really have to work around people's schedules. And sometimes it's at lunchtime that I have to call them. So if you can prep yourself or maybe make time in your day, like allot time in your day so that it's scheduled so these things aren't popping up on you during the workday, it might be helpful to, allow you to stay focused and productive and maintain some kind of a routine. Um, I think it's also important to note that another aspect of staying focused, yes, you must stay focused at work, but I think another aspect of staying focused is to also note that even though family lawyers, we care about your file and we care about you, and we will work hard to achieve your preferable outcome if possible. The role of a family lawyer is to help clarify legal rights and obligations and procedural steps. So while legal professionals will assist with structuring in your any settlements or advocating fair outcomes, which can alleviate some uncertainty and just help you stay focused, like at work. So you don't have to do all those things for yourself. The like filing documents and whatever, because it can be a hassle sometimes. Um, it's important to differentiate this from what a therapist can do or a counselor can do, which is they're meant to help individuals through this emotional transition. And so I think that some clients do find it beneficial to combine both legal and emotional support so that you can navigate through this emotionally challenging time. Yeah. What would you say about that, Joe? What say you?
Yeah, listen, you've raised great points, and I think the idea of, staying focused is an extremely important topic and something that should not really be kicked to the curb, but rather something that's at the forefront of everyone's in front of everyone's head. I mean, I think it's also a great segue to also dealing with being able to remaining focused is to be able to managing your time off in the workplace. And, what does that start with? It starts with planning ahead, right? So, as you mentioned, legal proceedings and personal appointments, dealing with the calls from Jodeen if she gives you a call for information, or, sitting down with the clerk to complete your financial statement, your financial disclosure. These personal appointments, or even like the legal proceedings themselves, but everything that leads up to that, the other appointments that we require of you, can oftentimes be time consuming. So being able to schedule these commitments in advance when possible, and really ensuring your calendar is up to date is is ideal, and it's really allows us to function effectively and efficiently, and allows us to move your matter forward in an effective and efficient manner. Um, and what does that also mean in terms of your responsibilities as a client? It means notifying your supervisor early, right? Give your team, give your employer, give your supervisor as much notice as possible about your absences, if you need to take them, to help them plan around your schedule, right? This prevents last minute disruptions. It shows respect for their time. It ultimately notifying early allows us to plan something that fits your schedule. And as Jodeen says, we're more than willing to accommodate. We know that people are gainfully employed. We know that people have a 9 to 5, and sometimes they can't take off time. And maybe the only availability they have is during lunch, and we understand that and we respect that. So being able to notify your supervisors early and give them enough time to plan around your schedule, or as best as you can plan around your own schedule, right? That makes everything a lot smoother. With respects to legal proceedings and the dates in which those either conferences or motions, the dates that they fall on, right? A lot of clients, what they do is that they use their available leave provided by their employer as well as legislation. So making use of sick days, personal days, or vacation time if necessary is a tool that clients can use, right? So it's really important for you to check your company policies with respects to leave to ensure that you're actually taking advantage of all these available options as well as the legislation, right? If you're a T4 employee and you're not a contracted employee, um, you have days afforded to you in the legislation in the Employment Standards Act. So take a look at that and see what days you're afforded to in terms of personal days, and make use of those, right? And as always, there has to be a need for you to balance your workload, right? So if you know you'll be out of the office, try to adjust your workload accordingly, right? Delegate tasks if appropriate, or maybe discuss with your manager on how to redistribute work during your absence. These are all things that you can do to make sure that you're ahead of your employment obligations as you're dealing with the legal aspects of your separation and divorce. And I
Yeah.
guess,
Oh,
sorry, Jodine,
go
go,
ahead.
go ahead. I didn't mean to
Would you
interrupt
like
you.
me to continue on with talking about support networks?
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's a good migration dealing with, from what we discussed to this for sure.
I agree. So yeah, during this time, I think this is one of those things that always comes up when we're talking about separation and divorce. And um as we mentioned, because it's such a challenging time for some I was speaking to a lawyer today, just trying to get some more background on what I should talk about, and they mentioned that sometimes divorce can be a relief for people. So it's not necessarily that it's a moment of grief for some people. Sometimes it's a relief. Of course, it depends on everyone's situation. But even in those moments, even if you're experiencing divorce as a relief, it is a huge change in what you were previously used to. You were in a couple, you were in a relationship, and now that relationship has ended. So there are a lot of things that in your life with your former partner were interconnected, interwoven. So you may definitely need supports outside of work and um to help you get through this transitional period. So I mentioned earlier about, just looking into maybe getting a therapist or a counselor, a trusted advisor. Some people, would prefer to talk to a priest or a pastor, whatever, it's up to you, but it is really about having some kind of uh, other party that you trust that you can pour into sometimes because it's easy to get in your head and in these times. So when you're seeking emotional support outside of work, um, it's important to you can lean on friends, family, support groups that can offer comfort, a perspective without interfering with your workplace relationships. It may also be helpful to seek therapy in this process, so that you can adjust to life changes and find a healthy way to process your emotions. Um, many individuals, well, from what I've noticed, so far in my short career as a family lawyer, I've noticed that people do find professional guidance helps them to refocus on what really matters, which is generally for most people creating a stable and positive future for themselves and their family. Um, Divorce can feel overwhelming sometimes, but shifting the focus from past grievances to future goals is very helpful. And speaking with a trusted advisor, therapist, counselor can really help the client process difficult and emotional feelings, um, difficult feelings and emotions because emotions are feelings. Oh my gosh. Reducing stress and conflict that may otherwise interfere with, the family law proceedings and processes. So even receiving, outside help can help you in speaking with your lawyer, because your lawyer is, as I mentioned earlier, there to perform a very particular set of tasks to help you through the legal process. And while lawyers are very often willing to hear your emotions and give you a space to vent and release, we are not the professionals that will help guide you through those emotions.
Even
And
though we
so
do, even though we wear multiple hats and we
we
do,
do wear multiple hats. That's what I'm saying. We're
right?
going to also provide that, but we can't be the sole source. So if you're going through a difficult time or you need time to need a space to process those emotions, seeing someone professional can really help you to get the best out of your time with your lawyer. Can help you with planning, can help you decide what the best outcome might be for you, because maybe some feelings of resentment might be clouding your better judgment. And so, it's always helpful to uh, step outside of yourself, just have a quick evaluation of whether or not you are in the right place mentally and emotionally, and whether or not you need to seek help for that. I think that's important. Um, yeah, what do you think about that, Joe?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, like I said, lawyers, we wear multiple hats. And I mean, as you mentioned, you're coming to a lawyer to receive legal advice, right? You're coming to seek legal information, legal advice as it relates to your file. Yes, we wear the multiple hats. We're the business valuators, we're the real estate agents, we're the psychiatrists and the
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
therapists.
We can't prescribe anything.
We can't prescribe anything.
No.
But I mean, you like as Jodeen said, you want to make use of the time with your lawyer and that it's relating to legal services, right? That's what you're
Hmm.
paying us for. If you had issues with your teeth, you wouldn't come to us for an extraction, right? You'd go to a dentist. So making sure that you're utilizing the necessary resources that are applicable to the services being offered is very beneficial in terms of time and as well as terms of your retainer funds, right? You want to make sure that you're using your retainer funds necessary and appropriately. And that also leads to the idea, as you know, as Jodeen mentioned, the idea of practicing self-care. And with respects to, sorry, give me 1 second, Joe. Sorry, 1 second.
Oh yeah, no worries. So one of the things that I think I forgot to mention too was that some employers have employee assistant programs.
Hmm.
So as you know speak about self-care, I think you can mention accessing counseling services or things like that through those kinds of programs.
100%. Thank you. And you know, going so for example, exactly what Joe said, these employee assistance programs, right? So many companies actually offer employee assistance programs that provide confidential counseling, sometimes even legal advice, and as well
Mhm.
as financial planning assistance, right? And these resources can be invaluable during a divorce or separation. So these are something that you should look into. Um, you know, now that we're on the topic of workplace resources, right? The idea of human resources support, right? So HR can guide you through policies related to flexible work schedules, benefits adjustments, or any other accommodations you might need that will best help you get through this situation, right? As I mentioned, it's emotionally and stressfully taxing, and you know, speaking with HR, looking into employee assistance programs are only things that are there available to you to help you in this circumstance, right? Jodeen mentioned earlier about the gossip. If you start sharing your what's going on in your personal life with your employee or with your fellow colleagues, but I mean, if you do have a trusted colleague, and I'm sure a lot of us do, right? Consider sharing your situation with them. Right? Having someone at work who understands what you're going through, who's not in your immediate household, right? They can
Mhm.
provide emotional support. I'm not saying word vomit onto them and make them feel that, they're overwhelmed. But
Mhm.
if you can speak to somebody and, if they're really a trusted colleague and a trusted friend, they'll give you an ear to listen to you, right? And they'll provide you with that emotional support. Aside from the employee assistance programs, a lot of workplaces also have wellness programs, right? So
Mhm.
being able to actually take advantage of these and to participate in any stress management, mindfulness, or any other really wellness programs that your company offers is a really great resource, right? These tools um, can provide ways to cope with emotional challenges and dealing with stress, as what separation and divorce often brings up. And with that said, the idea of practicing self-care is so, so important, right? And what does self-care look like? Self-care obviously looks different for different people, but generally speaking, there are sort of four things that I recommend to my clients when they're going through a difficult situation. The first being regular breaks, right? Taking short, regular breaks can really help you reset your mind and avoid becoming overwhelmed, right? Even a 5-minute walk can make a significant difference. For me, I'm stuck in this office for, 9, 10 hours a day. If I can go upstairs and go outside and take a walk to the mailbox or just even down the street, right? It makes a huge difference for my mental health, right? And being involved in healthy habits, right? So what does that mean? That means focusing on maintaining a balanced diet, staying hydrated, avoiding excessive caffeine or junk food, right? All of these things exacerbate stress. And I'm not one to talk about the avoiding excessive caffeine, but right, do what I say, not what I do, right? Staying away from the caffeine. All of these things exacerbate stress, right? So really focusing on healthy habits is extremely important. Another thing that do as I say, not as I do, is a sleep routine, right? Divorce and separated related stress really does disrupt sleep patterns, right? So it's really important for you to prioritize good sleep hygiene by setting a consistent bedtime, limiting screen time before bed, and really creating a relaxing nighttime routine that will allow you to fall asleep. Sleep is so, so important. You should be getting, 7 to 9 hours a night, right? And that's really gonna do wonders on both your mental and physical health. Now, number four, dealing with physical health is the idea of physical activity, right? There's no reason why No one can incorporate any similar or small light exercise into your daily routine. Walking, stretching, yoga, going up and down the stairs a couple times reduces tension and improves your mood. It really does wonders. So, I mean, these are the four big things that I would suggest and what I advise my clients to take part in when, dealing with, themselves in terms of self-care and trying to making sure that they're their best mental and physical selves when they're going through this.
Yeah, I would go. Yeah, I 100% agree with you. With the whole caffeine thing, to be honest, I think it's about just moderation. Just try to do it in moderation because, yes, too much is not good for us, but sometimes we need a boost, and that's where we can get it. So,
100%.
yeah, and you know, with the whole sleep thing as well, similarly as well, just try. Trying is better than like getting hung up on the fact that you're not doing it or not getting enough sleep. Even just
Right.
relaxing more is helpful if you can't get the full, you know, the luxurious 7 or 9 hours, 7 to 9 hours. Ooh, that would be nice. But I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier when you brought up the point about sharing with a trusted colleague what you're going through so that you can have, sorry, my dog, so that you can sharing with a trusted colleague so that you can have someone in the workspace that knows what you're going through. It can most definitely help. Um, the
Sure.
whole thing with gossiping is that you don't want to overshare to the wrong people, and then you become, I don't know, the talk of the office. Like just be mindful of how you're sharing your information and with who. Of
Mhm.
course, if it's a friend, 100%. Um, so just came across some ways that maybe you could like brush some things off. Like if folks are asking you and you don't want to talk about it, just be like, I appreciate your concern. I'm handling things the best that I can. And
Yeah.
things like that where you're addressing the issue, but you don't have to go dive deeper into it if you really don't want to. Um, and so another thing is that Joe mentioned is reading your workplace, reading the policy that your work has for, let's say, benefits, and even yeah, I would say benefits. Benefits are important. So, like, yeah, reading your workplace policy regarding benefits and divorce, because there are different policies that and different policies that have different stipulations to as to how they deal with the parties separating and whether or not the other side will remain on your benefits following separation or divorce, or maybe the stipulation is that, oh, now they're living with someone else, so they are no longer covered by your benefits. I don't know. Point being is it's a good idea to read up on the terms and conditions of your benefits and how the separation or divorce may affect that. Understanding these policies will help you make informed decisions about your benefits and avoid unintended financial consequences. Also, another thing I thought of was that um, most people don't really know that your pension is an asset in family law for the purpose of equalization. So
Mhm.
it must be valued accordingly for separation proceedings, divorce proceedings. But notably, your employer is not responsible for determining the value of your pension. So you don't have to talk about pension with HR, your employee, or whatever, that process is dealt with by the pension administrator, not your employer. So yeah, just a little sprinkle of some knowledge that was imparted on me, and I was like, okay, yeah, I think that's helpful knowledge. Joe, what do you think?
I think it's always good to get some helpful knowledge, right? It's a learning experience, it's a learning curve, right? Um, yeah, like listen, everything you said was right. And if I could just really come back to the idea of practicing self-care. You spoke about it, and we've spoken about it a couple times today, but it's the idea of really, monitoring stress levels, right? Because at the end of the day, as mentioned, separation, divorce, and I feel like a broken record, extremely taxing on your emotional state as well as, your stress levels. Um, there was a survey that was released, and there was research done on it. And the most stressful time in one person's life is the loss of a family member. That's the most stressful anyone is in their life. The second is divorce, and the third is separation. So I mean, we're not dealing with a small issue here, right? We're dealing with something that's a major event that has a real impact to one's mental health, right? And it's not, each person, it's a generalized notion that divorce, separation is emotionally taxing and extremely stressful, and it has adverse effects on one's mental health. So, how do we monitor stress levels to not get to a point where we feel like we're in a hole? There's a small light shining down on you and that you're by yourself and you feel like you have no way out, right? First thing I tell clients is to be able to recognize signs of burnout, right? Be on the lookout for signs like irritability, constant fatigue, difficulty concentrating, or just the general notion that you're feeling overwhelmed, right? These factors of burnout and signs of burnout really indicate that stress is taking a toll on you. That's number one. Number two is the idea of setting work-life boundaries, right? Work can be a helpful distraction. It is to some people, right? However, it's important not to overlook it as a way to escape your personal issues and what you're dealing with, right? Being able to maintain that healthy balance between work and personal life is extremely, extremely important, right? Another thing that I tell my clients to do, and I mean, it sounds cliche, but it really does help, is the idea of engaging in mindfulness techniques. And, using simple techniques, just, taking a couple seconds to engage in some deep breathing, right? Mediation, or just some mindful exercise that you find on Google or you find on YouTube to manage some stress in the moment, maybe listening to some music, right? A few minutes can help you refocus your mind and really bring you down and bring the stress levels down. I know on my Apple Watch there's a mindfulness app or a breathing app, and it tells you when to take deep breaths in and deep breaths out, and it reminds me once an hour or once every 2 hours to do it, right? I mean, these little things allow you to shift your focus away from what you're dealing with in your head, allow you to bring you down, calm you down, bring you back to earth, bring you back to reality, right? Give you a second, and then it really, sets wonders, right? Another thing that Jodeen mentioned, and I can't really reiterate this enough, is you have to be able to know when to seek help, right? If stress becomes unmanageable, right, and it's really impacting your day in and your day out, dealing with your kids, dealing with your friends, dealing with other family members, dealing with your work, dealing with your life in general that it wasn't doing prior to going through the separation or divorce, or maybe prior to when you started seeing issues in your marriage or your common law relationship, right? That is when you really need to consider seeking professional counseling or therapy. It's not a sign of weakness. It really isn't. There's a lot of strong, mentally healthy people who engage in counseling, who engage in therapy, and it's not a sign of being weak, but rather knowing that you actually need this assistance is actually a sign of strength. And it's really important that you don't hesitate to reach out for help, right? Again, it's a sign of strength. It's not a sign of weakness. So that's what I sort of want to convey in terms of monitoring levels. Because I mean, it really ties in with the the self-care aspect and utilizing workplace resources and, everything we discussed around today, honestly, it revolves around the idea of stress and monitoring your own stress levels. Once you've taken control of that, you're unstoppable. And it also makes the process a lot easier, right? When like Jodeen said, when you don't have stress and emotion fixated and you're fixated on that, it allows you to be more clear-headed, provide better judgment, allow you to be more reasonable. And that allows us, your legal team to work with you in a way that we can settle things easier. We can come to the table and negotiate easier, right? If you're all stressed out, you're emotionally taxed, it's a lot difficult to have these rational, reasonable conversations with our clients.
Yeah, 100% Joe. And I mean, um, I I've been privy to some client interactions where the individual is a lovely person, but under so much stress that sometimes they hit you with some vitriol that isn't really directed at you but at their situation. And unfortunately, because we have to take time to meet with clients, and when this happens, it eats into the time that's set out for to deal with these issues. It's not ultimately not beneficial use of time if if that's every single meeting. You want to be able to move on the issue. You want to be able to get past the point where it's about venting, and more so about what do you think are appropriate next steps. What can we come up with? This is what you need to do to move forward. We have this task that we have to complete, or if these are the goals that you want to achieve, we have to do this. So as we've mentioned quite a few times, refocusing is very important. And as you just mentioned, sometimes it requires that you take some time to yourself, and whether it's mindfulness, deep breathing therapy, whatever you need to do to help you to really get through this time in a way that is not solely driven by your emotions, because we have emotions, we can't help it. It's always going to be there. But yeah, you'll have to find a way to refocus, and don't discount that as a part of what may be required to move through this process. Uh, I really do think it's not so separate, but it should be something that you do in conjunction with the legal process, because it can be taxing, even if you do alternative dispute resolution. It can take some time. It's faster than court usually, less expensive usually. um and you have one of the benefits of ADR is that you have a bit more control over the outcome, whereas throughout the court process, it really is both sides present their submissions, and it's really up to the judge at the end of the day what the judge thinks is a beneficial or the right outcome, or the suitable outcome, sorry. So going through those negotiations, mediation, collaborative process, whatever, it does require that you come into it emotionally ready, mentally ready, to come to some kind of settlement, maybe. Um, because that I think that's the best outcome for both sides to come to some kind of settlement. Um, so in order to achieve all these processes and fill out all these documents and schedule all these calls and court appearances if necessary, you this might require some additional time. And I know we touched on this a bit earlier, and Joe mentioned that you may need to look at your maybe your employment contract or the legislation to see what you're entitled to in terms of days off. After COVID, we've been able to take advantage of work from home. So if there are things that can be done virtually, you can speak to your legal representative, and some court proceedings are also done virtually, not all, but some. And so that can help you with your flexibility to balance work and as well as these obligations, these legal obligations that you have to fulfill. You can also discuss a flexible work arrangement with your employer, which uh in which they maybe allow you to start later if you're finding that you have like court dates or whatever that you need to meet at a certain time. And yeah, as Joe said, keep your calendar up to date. Know what's on the horizon in terms of what you have to work on. And that will help you to make the most appropriate arrangements for you and keep your work up to date with what's going on yeah, up to date in terms of what they need to know. Uh, yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. You
I
again,
I rambled a
everything you
bit.
said was right. Pardon?
Sorry, I rambled a bit.
No, listen, you're spot on. You're spot on, right? I mean, there's so many things that need to be taken into consideration, and we've explained, in great detail, um, ultimately how you can, be the captain of your ship and how, what it takes to really cope with going through the separation and divorce process.
Mhm.
And with that being said, thank you so much, to all of our viewers on Zoom and on YouTube. Thank you for tuning into Family Law Now After Hours. Following the session, a brief survey will appear, allowing you to share your comment suggestions for future topics you'd like us to explore. And as always, your feedback is greatly, greatly appreciated. We are putting it in the chat now. Um, and this will allow you to actually take advantage of the opportunity for a 20-minute complimentary consultation with one of our lawyers. So in order to do so, please contact our intake team at intake@russellalexander.com and provide the code LEAFS. That's LEAFS. Sorry, I had to schedule your appointment. So it's in the chat function here. I've audibly given you the code, and that has to be done by 12 o'clock this coming Friday, right? Your consultation doesn't need to be before 12
Mhm.
o'clock on a Friday, but you need to request the consultation using this code, and that's going to allow you to schedule your initial 20-minute consultation with one of our lawyers.
I
Right
should have set
now,
the code. It would have been Eagles. Sorry.
oh yeah, could have been Eagles. Could have been Eagles. Um, So, registration is actually now open for our next event. It's next Tuesday at 5 o'clock, Winning versus Losing in Family Law. All you have to do is go to russellalexander.com/family law now to register. Thank you to our panelists, Jodeen, myself, but Jodeen, especially you always share such valuable insight, and you've definitely
Oh,
grown over
wow.
the last few months, and you've learned so much, and I'm happy that you're sharing it with all of our viewers. And ultimately, thank you to the viewers yourselves for tuning into Family Law Now After Hours. Have a great night. Jodeen, we are officially after hours.
After hours. Woohoo.
After hours. Good
Thanks,
night, everyone.
Joe. Appreciate it.
Thank you.